Hello, it's good to be with you. As was stated, Leif with the Department of Transportation. I've been with the department for 2 or 3 years. I'm not quite used to the bright lights up here, but it's good to be with you anyway. I'm from Centerville. Mayor Clark Wilkinson does a good job for us there, and excited to talk about some legislative issues with you. Cameron Dill said if I really wanted to get you guys going, we could talk about parking mandates and maybe some changes to the B&C road fund formula. It'd be nice if maybe we made some changes for cities in the 16 to 17,000 range and maybe a second-class county to just have them make out like bandits there. But alas, we're not going to talk about those things. We're going to be a little bit less exciting than that. I'm sure you guys would like to do that. But we're going to talk about active transportation investment funds, or what we've been calling the Utah Trail Network. I believe Laura Hansen mentioned this. This is the trail initiative that was passed during the 2023 legislature. Also touch on the road usage charge program and why it matters to local governments. And then I'll hit on the Governor's Unified Economic Opportunity Commission and talk about some of the transportation initiatives that were recommended in their August meeting. And then lastly, we get to the really fun stuff, a good old legislative audit. They looked at a limited review of the B&C road funds. So we'll take a look at that and see what it means for cities and also UDOT, because we administer that fund. All right, so the Active Transportation Investment Fund. This is an exciting program. It's new. This legislature, we started receiving money on July 1 of this year. The governor announced this last year with, I believe there were some local government representatives with him, Representative Stenquist and others. He announced it last fall. The legislature decided to fund it and to create the program in state code. And so, again, the Utah Trail Network. What this isn't, at least not yet, building a trail from St. George all the way up to Snowville. We're going to be taking some steps, and it's going to be more regional at this point, connecting people with destinations that are desirable, maybe connecting to other trail systems, local community trail systems, connecting to schools, connecting to rec centers, and connecting to communities that people might be interested in going back and forth from, and these are paved trails, and so it's fixed to be a pretty nice system. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So the legislature appropriated $45 million in one-time funds to kind of get the program started, and then $45 million in ongoing funds. And about $900,000 of that ongoing money, they're allowing us to have a staff to do the short-term work on that, and also the long-term planning, to look at running this as a program and adding piece by piece over the years. So as I mentioned, it's to be used for paved pedestrian trails that serve a regional purpose and also that are prioritized by the Transportation Commission. And the projects need to also be part of an active transportation plan. That could be UDOT's statewide plan, which we're going to be trying to create, or a plan that the commission has approved of, and I know some of you folks have plans out there. So I'll just give just a quick plug to Utah's Unified Transportation Plan. We're going to be releasing the next version of that. That's the 30-year long-range plan for Utah's transportation system, and that includes an active transportation component, which, I mean, the plan's designed to give choices to Utahns to travel the state by car, by transit, and now by trail. So just to give you a little progress report, as I mentioned, we started getting money July 1. Some of you are thinking, well, it's been 2 months, where's the trails? But we're getting there. We've hired a trail division leader. Her name is Stephanie Tomlinson. I hope some of you get an opportunity to work with her. She's brilliant. She's been, the governor and the legislature approved 2 one-time active transportation pieces of money in 2021 and 2022. That was about 90 million. Or 70 million between the two. And she's the one who worked on prioritizing those projects and worked with local governments and getting those projects together. We're also working on internal coordination, trying to identify plans that are already out there. And we've approved a new prioritization model for active transportation projects. Let me show you just a little bit about that. So you can see these are the criteria here. There's we're going to look at safety and actions, and also an active transportation demand. And then we'll also be looking at, does it have the ability to shift a mode, to go from transit or to go from a car and onto the trail? And then also, does it provide some connectivity to the networks? And so you can see the weightings here, 30% for the connectivity and for the active transportation ability to change the mode, and then 20% for the other two. Let me walk you through the next steps. So we're going to be filling out our trail division and continuing to hire a few people to help with the program. And then we'll be meeting with MPOs and AOGs and also the UDOT regions to get our list together of projects. And of course, over the years, that list will continue to add to that list, so it's not a one-time thing. And then once that happens, we'll run the projects through the model, which will rank the projects. And then the Transportation Commission uses those rankings as a decision-making tool to decide where to spend the money. And then we'll start designing and building trails. And this is going to be awesome. Really looking forward to seeing this trail system develop. Okay, so the road usage charge program. You may wonder, why talk about this? This is an extremely important program for both the state and local governments. We adopted the program back in January of 2020. And why did we do that? We already have a fuel tax. We already have funding sources for transportation. Well, as you know, transportation is changing. We have starting to get a lot of electric vehicles on the road. They don't go to the gas stations and fill up. There's a lot of inflationary pressures on our transportation funding, and the gas tax has a hard time reacting to that. We also have vehicles that are getting better and better gas mileage, so we have more and more miles on our road, but less and less fuel tax being paid. And of course, the fuel tax is important for the BNC Road Fund. We have the Transportation Fund at the state level, and there's a 70-30 split. The state gets 70%, and then 30% is put in the BNC Road Fund and distributed based on population and weighted road miles. So as the fuel taxes become less and less that go into that fund, that can hurt both at the state level and at the local level. And so this, and I'm going to call it the RUC during this presentation, this road usage charge, the RUC, is the likely successor to the fuel tax system. So as some of you might be participating in this program, right now, as of January of this year, it's just electric vehicles that can join the program. There are some hybrids in the program that joined prior to that, and they're grandfathered in. But electric vehicles currently pay an annual fee of about $130. And so they have the option to join into the RUC program instead of paying the annual fee. And so they're charged 1 penny per mile that they drive. and they won't pay any more than that annual fee. And so they have an opportunity to save a little. If they were going to pay the full $130 in the program, they'd have to drive about 13,000 miles. I believe for electric vehicles, the national average is somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 miles. So there's real potential to save a little bit of money there. So this complicated slide here is just to show we have about 4,000 participants in the program. And it's running well. We're learning a lot how to run a program. We're learning how you might run a large-scale program as you know this potentially gets rolled out over the next 10 to 15 years. So one important feature of the RUC is how it treats drivers. We're all treated similarly under a RUC program. So under the current model, it doesn't matter what your gas mileage is, it just matters how much you use the road. So this shows for a vehicle that travels 12,000 miles annually. And so they would pay $120 under a RUC. But if you were paying gas taxes, you can see for the 15 mile per hour vehicle, you'd be paying a lot more, $291. And so the RUC seems a little bit more fair for the common user using the road. Okay, so this is a legislative history here, probably a little bit difficult to see, but the one circled in red there is the change that was made this year. And I think this is a really important change. It provides a signal to local governments that RUC revenues is intended to be shared just like the gas tax is, just like registration fees are through the BNC Road Fund. And so what the legislation does is says, hey, any revenue above the expenses of running the program is going to be transferred to the transportation fund and be distributed based on the 70-30 formula, and then distributed on the to BNC cities and counties. And so that's really important, and I just can't emphasize enough how important this program is for both the state and local governments. We should care about this. We should be working on this and working towards its success. I'll just share quickly that we do have a pilot program going on that shows how you might run a program with differential rates, RUC rates, in different jurisdictions. So you maybe have a local RUC rate on top of a state RUC rate. And so we're running this program. It's a federal grant that allows us to do this, and so we have a few cities there participating with us. And this slide's just to show there's a lot of work going on this across the country. A number of states have adopted RUC programs and annual fees for electric vehicles, which is kind of seen as a gateway to having a RUC and so forth. So I'll move on just quickly, talk about the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission. I'm going to call it the UEOC. They had some recommendations, transportation related, at their August meeting. So the first one is a market analysis of development capacity. This is I think a pretty cool idea. It's just doing a comprehensive market analysis to see where our development's going to take place, so we can be better planners, so we can do some of the things that Laura talked about in guiding our growth and being prepared for that growth and knowing where to invest and when to invest. Also, infrastructure grant opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities out there. Local governments see those opportunities. They don't always have the resources to do that. And so we talked about potentially having a little bit of state funding to help local governments write and match and administer grants. Lastly, here we have transit innovation grants. This is a great idea. We've talked about having a zero fare type opportunity, doing zero fare for a year. There just wasn't the political muscle to make that happen. This is maybe an alternative to that, providing a pot of money to provide grants to local governments to do some innovations, to do a ticket as fare, or to do a pass program for K through 12, or to do a shuttle service that connects the last mile with transit stations. All right, I'm going to skip just quickly to the audit here. I'll cover this kind of fast. So the risk, this was a legislative audit that was done. It just came out a couple of days ago, so it's pretty fresh, and they just looked at the BNC road funds. And they had 3 findings in the audit. The first one was that risk of misuse of BNC road funds is low, which seemed to make sense. You guys have transportation needs, and you've got to spend the money you get for transportation on transportation. That's basically what they found. Nothing really surprising there. They also looked at maybe some oversight changes that UDOT can make that might improve things. They were kind of concerned that when there's an annexation taking place, a city annexes some land that was previously unincorporated, there might be opportunity for that road mileage to be counted twice for a short period. So we'll start looking at maybe having a fix for that. They also had a question of, is the BNC road fund money distributed fairly based on where the fuel is purchased? That's currently not part of the distribution formula. It's just population and weighted road miles. This looked at, where fuel taxes are paid. But the data just doesn't exist. It's not like our sales taxes where the tax commission's collecting data on where purchases are taking place. So they kind of had to punt on that and say, hey, if you want an answer to this question, you have to make the tax commission collect that data. So with that, I'm all done. I didn't get to the parking or the formula changes. Sorry about that, but appreciate being with you, and thanks for all you do.